And the translation is, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of, because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Yesterday we concluded with chapter 2, which was involving the discussions of sadhana bhakti, and that's divided into two divisions of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, following the rules and regulations, and Raganuga sadhana bhakti. It means the same rules become likable to follow in a spontaneous way. So today we will begin with chapter 3, and the first, you could say, paragraph in the chapter. I'm going to read the exact verse that's in that paragraph in the chapter from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And that's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 22, text number 50. So can we get to the verse? And everyone can say after me, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda. Everyone?
Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya
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 Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya
Nityananda.
Advaita Chandra Jaya, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita
Jaya
Jaya
Gaura Bhakta
Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya,
Jaya
Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta.
So we're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is the Madhya Lila chapter 22, text number 50. And the verse is on the screen. Yadrichaya mat katada jata shradas tuya puman na nirvina nati shakta bhakti yoga siddhita. Go to the translation. Somehow or other, if one is attracted to talks about me and has faith in the instructions I have set forth in the Bhagavad Gita, and if one is neither falsely detached from material things nor very much attached to material existence, his dormant love for me will be awakened by devotional service. Unquote. This verse in the purport, this verse from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 20, text number 8, was spoken by Krishna at the time of his departure from this material world. It was spoken to Uddhava. So now we'll get to chapter 3 in the first and second paragraph I'm about to read. okay, in the Nectar of Devotion. And you will find what I just read in this verse is the same in the first paragraph, paraphrased by Srila Prabhupada and Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. So the heading is eligibility. In other words, the Sanskrit word for eligibility is called adhikar. Eligibility of the candidate for accepting devotional service. So this word devotional service refers to Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti on the first paragraph. On account of his association with Mahatmas, or great souls 100% in the devotional service of the Lord, one may attain a little bit of attraction for Sri Krishna. So now I just want you to focus on the word attraction, how many times it is used. Okay? So it says one may attain a little bit of attraction for Sri Krishna. But at the same time, one may remain very much attached to fruitive activities and material sense enjoyment, and not be prepared to undergo the different types of renunciation. Such a person, if he has unflinching attraction to Krishna, attraction for the second time, becomes an eligible candidate for discharging devotional service. Let's get to the next paragraph on the screen. Krishna Prema Prabhu. Yeah, I will need the next paragraph on the screen. Yes. Now this attraction, the third word again, third time, this attraction for Krishna consciousness in association with pure devotees is the sign of great fortune. It is confirmed by Lord Chaitanya that only the fortunate persons, by the mercy of both a bona fide spiritual master and Krishna, will get the seed of devotional service. In this connection, Lord Krishna says in Srimad-Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 20th chapter, verse 8, which is the same verse I read from Srimad-Bhagavatam. My dear, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita rather, my dear Uddhava, only by exceptional fortune does someone become attracted to me. And even if one is not completely detached from fruitive activities, that means materialistic activities, or is not completely attached to devotional service, such a service is quickly effective. So then thereafter, there's three types of devotees, which we will discuss later. But I want to get through more on this point of this particular verse. Now the word yadrichaya in this verse, Krishna says directly by some exceptional fortune. But in the translation in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says yadrichaya indicates somehow or the other. Somehow or the other it happens. Now, if someone is too attached to material enjoyment, or if he happens to be very much attached to artificial renunciation, then he may not be able to take to devotional service. Because to take to devotional service, one has to give up material enjoyment and also artificial renunciation, which I discussed way before as Bhoga and Tyag in the beginning, either in the preface or in the introduction. So therefore, the verse here says that he shouldn't be too attached to material enjoyment. Because when one comes to Krishna consciousness, some material enjoyment is still there. But because he's not too attached to that material enjoyment, he's able to become favorable to hear about Krishna consciousness. And then one's also not supposed to be too you could say, attached to artificial renunciation or detached in a dry way. So the non-devotees, who are technically called karmis, it's a strong word, they may be too attached to enjoyment. And the jnanis, who are detached from material sense enjoyment, they may become too attached to renunciation. So one should be neither too detached, or not too attached. And one should have the positive attraction to talks about Krishna, because the basic activities of devotional service are hearing, chanting, and remembering. Okay? Now, to put it simple, if somebody in the material world is too attached to material activities, and when one introduces Krishna consciousness to them, he may feel, well, I really have no time for these people, these Hare Krishnas. Because I have enough things to do in the material world. I have enough things to enjoy. That means one is too attached. See? And if one is artificially renounced or detached like the jnanis, and if somebody introduces Krishna consciousness to them, they'll think, well, I gave up activity all along. Now I have to get involved with these people. I have to do some activity, which means some service. And I'm really not inclined to that, because that's too attached to artificial renunciation. However, there are two glorious examples in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. One is that, I won't get into detail with the examples, but one is Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj wanted a kingdom because he was so attached to the idea. At the same time, he got the Lord's mercy. And when he met the Lord through his tapasya and vairagya in the forest as a young boy, because he wasn't too attached to the idea of getting a kingdom, he gave up the desire even for the kingdom. So that means Dhruva Maharaj was attached, but not too attached to his thoughts. And when he got the darshan of the Lord, he realized, as Prabhupada would say, that he was looking for jewels or diamonds. But when he found the Lord, then he was always just looking for pieces of broken glass, which really has no value to it. And the other, that means, in terms of being attached to fruitive activities in material life. And Dhruva Maharaj is a perfect example of how he came to Krishna consciousness, because he wasn't too attached. Then you get the example of the four Kumaras, who are sort of jnanis and connected to the impersonal feature of Krishna. But yet again, they were not really so attached to that. Why? Because when they smelt the aroma carried by the breeze from the tulsi leaves, and also the aroma of the saffron, carried by the breeze from the lotus feet of the Lord, they practically immediately gave up the conception of impersonalism in the sense of jnanis. So they were not too attached to this renunciation. So this supports basically the basic definition of not being too attached to material enjoyment and not too attached to artificial renunciation. Now there's a nice question, practical question that can be asked like that. What makes one eligible to be engaged in devotional service? Because this is the title of the chapter, eligibility of the candidate for accepting devotional service. So what makes one eligible? Now one answer could be association with pure devotees. But we see that not everyone who associates with pure devotees comes to engage in devotional service. So one may say that's the answer. But in this particular verse we read, it says, Jata Shradas Tuya Puman. Uh, which means that if somebody is attracted to talks about Krishna and has faith in Krishna's instructions as set forth in the Bhagavad Gita, so therefore the basic requirement to become eligible to be engaged in devotional service is faith and attraction to Krishna. And this gives the beginning of sort of some preliminary taste that I would like to explore this more. I'd like to do this more, and let's see what happens. See? Now, this is all included in Shraddha, or faith. And what is that? One becomes attracted, and one gets the beginning of taste, which one has not tasted, in any way in one's, materialistic activities in the world. So this word yadrichaya indicates that by some good fortune or somehow or the other, indicates in one sense also, not necessarily directly the association of a devotee, but indicates the mercy of the devotee. So when someone comes to devotional service, definitely one is not free from desires of bhakti, material sense gratification, or mukti, or artificial renunciation. But the qualification is that, like we mentioned, they're not too attached or detached from bhakti and mukti respectively. So therefore, included in this good fortune, in one sense, is also called pious activities, which may contribute to one being fortunate. But that's not the sort of punya or pap, which is the opposite in the material world. Performing pious activities to go to the heavenly planets and engaging in sinful activities and landing down in the hellish planets. That's not what we're talking about. So therefore, in order for somebody to come to accept the practices of devotional service, as an eligibility, some taste is there. Some taste is there. And we mentioned right there in chapter 1, the characteristics of basic characteristics of pure devotional service is that taste comes when they feel some relief from material miseries in this world. Now, bhakti itself includes what is called ecstasy or bliss. And bhakti also itself includes what is called the samvid shakti, which gives transcendental knowledge, and the ladini shakti, which gives the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness. So therefore, bliss is included in bhakti. So it is not just getting the knowledge or the philosophy of Krishna consciousness that would be bhakti, in its essence. What makes it bhakti is that sort of taste that one feels, some ecstasy or bliss, after one acts on that knowledge. So the very definition of this eligibility, I know it's a bit philosophical, but it's going point by point. So the very definition of this eligibility to come to Krishna consciousness essentially means one becomes attracted to Krishna, even in the initial stages. And that fits the definition of the name Krishna, the all-attractive person. So therefore, that attraction in the beginning is not necessarily spontaneous, but nevertheless, it is being attracted to at least the subject of Krishna consciousness. Now we can answer the question, which follows from that question: what makes one qualified, eligible to engage in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti? And the follow-up question to that would be, what is the source of this initial attraction to Krishna and to follow the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, coming into the association of devotees? So in the verse, it says the word nar nivana, na nirvina. Yeah? Same thing, not falsely detached and not ashakti, and not very much attached to material existence. So now, on a practical level, everyone has some degree of attachment and detachment. Now, if someone has too much attachment and not enough detachment, then he'll become to be continuing to be what is called a karmi or a non-devotee. Therefore, he won't be able to become the beginning stages of a practicing devotee or a bhakta. And if he has too much detachment and no attachment, and even attachment to the material world, that's also not good. Because if someone has no experience of material affection, love for family or for friends, then how will he understand the principle of attachment to Krishna? There must be some sort of juice or ras, some emotions involved of affection at least. So if someone has love for family and friends, then he may be able to understand the principle of love for Krishna. And he just has to transfer that experience of love and affection or attachment towards Krishna. And therefore, if somebody only has detachment, then the tendency is that he'll go for further just knowledge without acting on it, or he'll go for liberation or mukti. That is actually quite prominent in India, at least in the past, until Krishna consciousness created a boom in India. See? So therefore, how does this attraction appear in someone and not necessarily in others? It's simply by yadrichaya, by some good fortune. Now, what is the cause of that good fortune? Some people think that the performance of material pious activities is the cause of the good fortune. Now, of course, one definition of good fortune is material good fortune, but that cannot really apply here. Because material good fortune or pious activities elevates one, like I said earlier, to the heavenly planets. And bhakti is free from karma and jnana. In anya bilasita sunyam jnana karma adi anavritam. That karma is, bhakti is free from that. So good karma or piety or activities of pious nature cannot be the cause of bhakti. Because bhakti is always independent and free of all types of actions and reactions in the material world, which is called karma. So good fortune means basically one becomes attracted to Krishna, and then also one becomes attracted to someone who is conscious of Krishna, or who is the abode of Krishna consciousness, and that is the devotee. So then one becomes attracted to hearing from a devotee. Now the attraction itself, when one first comes into contact with devotees, in other words, somehow or the other, it doesn't mean that we were not eating meat or when taking intoxicants or when attached to sense gratification. But despite doing those activities, that means not following the regulative principles, one has become attracted. Somehow, one has become attracted. I'll give an example in this regard. Sometimes you'll get a man who's like hopelessly entangled in sense gratification. But somehow or the other, every Sunday is there the Sunday program. And last Sunday he came with one girlfriend, and this Sunday he came with another girlfriend. And then every week another new girl comes with him. And that's like normal for him, and he's not a pretender. He's saying, look, I am hopelessly attached to practically sense gratification. But gradually we see he's still attracted. And over some time, what happens? You'll find that then suddenly he's coming with the same girl, week after week. And then the devotees who are connecting with him and say, hey, what happened? You finally got it, right? You finally are not like exploiting and abusing women. Now you want to take care of one. So why didn't you get married? He said, no, I'm thinking about it. In other words, he's attracted to the devotees, he's attracted to Krishna consciousness, he's attracted to chanting, but still he's hopelessly involved. So that means he's becoming detached because of attraction to devotees and attraction to Krishna. See? So if somebody has attraction for Krishna, then automatically you will find, or an attraction to devotees, automatically you will find that his attraction for the material world will decrease. will decrease, like I gave this example. So that's why the basic qualification for adhikar, or becoming eligible, is definitely here, according to this verse, to somehow or the other have a beginning attraction for Krishna consciousness. And because one has an attraction for Krishna consciousness, then one can go forward in devotional service. And by going forward, he can become free from his material desires, or become free from even artificial renunciation. Now, the last part in this category of this discussion. If Krishna wants to give bhakti, that means devotion itself, because devotional service we perform, not Krishna. Krishna will give devotion in the consciousness that you can perform service in devotional service, with devotion. If Krishna wants to give bhakti or devotion, he can easily give it because he is independent. But he won't discriminate. Because if the devotee wants to give and he prays to Krishna, then Krishna will give bhakti. Because a devotee can pray to Krishna to offer his bhakti. That means devotional service, not just devotion as Krishna has. Then Krishna will arrange that through that devotee. So the mercy of Krishna, which I mentioned in some earlier lectures also talks, the mercy of Krishna follows the mercy of the devotee. So when Krishna gives bhakti or devotion to a devotee, he also gives the devotee the power to bestow that mercy to others and make them fortunate. Yadrichaya. By some good fortune, others receive that fortune. So therefore the devotee he sort of has some independence of how he wants to give that mercy. How he wants to give that mercy. See? It's like this sometimes, sometimes like a senior devotee or a sannyasi or a diksha guru or a shiksha guru, just to give an example how this kind of works. But it's not exactly like that, but in principle. Just like, if a sannyasi is coming to your temple and, he's been given many garlands and he has like 4 garlands on him when he's giving the talk, and then he takes questions, and then after the lecture and the kirtan and so forth, and when he gets up, then devotees come to him to ask him more questions or to take care of him or to try to offer some service. Now there may be 20 or so devotees around him, but he only has 4 garlands. So now it's a sort of like independent nature of that sannyasi devotee that now he's wondering, now I have to decide who I should give these garlands. He can't give 20 people. He can give only 4 persons. See? So similarly, the devotee who has bhakti, by his own independence, he can bestow mercy or bhakti. But he has an independent nature to decide who gets it. And whoever gets it, that's good fortune for them. Therefore, not everyone can get it simultaneously from one devotee. See? And that devotee who bestows good fortune or yadrichaya, somehow or the other, doesn't need to request Krishna that I should give this mercy. That devotee himself can give mercy. And when he gives mercy, then Krishna's mercy follows that devotee's mercy. So the devotee praying to Krishna for mercy is another way of saying that the devotee is giving mercy. He may take some somewhat permission, but at the same time, he still gives mercy, whether the permission comes in time from Krishna. So the potency or the ability to give mercy is one type of eligibility, and it comes from the devotional service or bhakti from the devotee's heart. So therefore, here again, bhakti comes from bhakti. Bhakti comes from bhakti. It doesn't come from any other source or from any other cause. Now, I want to continue with the discussion. I know it's a little bit philosophical today, but I want to complete this part and then take your questions. Because sometimes we'll be asking questions on the next point I'm going to discuss. Now there's another thing. What is actually this somehow or the other, or by some good fortune, yadrichaya? What is actually that? There's a word, and we have all heard that word before. And there's a prefix to the word mercy, which has no cause, which has no eligibility, which has no qualification. Anyone knows that word? It says something mercy. It starts with C.
Causeless mercy?
Yes, causeless mercy. So causeless mercy is that somebody doesn't deserve it. In fact, somebody doesn't want it. In fact, somebody wants to reject it. Okay? But the devotee, out of his unlimited compassion, bestows the mercy nevertheless. The devotee doesn't worry whether the person will accept now or accept later, or the person will reject now and even reject later. The devotee, that's called causeless. So this fits all our discussions before that. In other words, it like reconciles everything else. And there's a beautiful verse in the Srimad-Bhagavatam in the second canto, in the first canto, first chapter, first canto, second chapter, text number 6. It says, Savai pumsam parodharmo yato bhakti radakshaya ayutikiha pratihata yayatma suprasidati. So the word ayutiki means also causeless. And the verse says that the supreme occupation of dharma for all humanity, both devotees and non-devotees alike, is that by which men or everyone can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. And such a devotional service must be unmotivated, ayutaki, causeless, apratyata, uninterrupted, to completely satisfy the self. So therefore, punya or pious activities may be a material cause. It may be a pre-step, but bhakti is not dependent even on that. Just like one cannot force Krishna to come. Krishna comes out of his own sweet will. So similarly, one cannot force bhakti to come. Bhakti comes out of our own sweet will. So therefore, another definition of this word yadrichaya, which I read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, is the word independent. And independent means own sweet will. Just as Krishna appears by his own sweet will, similarly bhakti appears by her own sweet will. So therefore, we cannot force even mercy. Mercy is causeless. See? You cannot demand from somebody, give me mercy. I'm suffering, give me mercy. That's not going to work. So when the devotee bestows mercy, it comes out of the devotee's own sweet will also. And it is not coming by any eligibility, materially or even piously, from the material world. Now, Srila Prabhupada in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, he gives a very wonderful explanation in the first canto, in chapter 6, text 37. He says that every living entity is anxious to get full freedom. Everyone wants to feel full freedom because that is one's natural nature, transcendental nature. And this freedom is only obtained by the transcendental service of the Lord. But illusion by Maya, material energy, everyone feels that he is free, but actually he is bound by the laws of nature. So therefore, a conditioned soul cannot really move freely from one place to another, even on this earth, what to speak of going to another planet or so. But a fully fledged soul is always engaged in chanting the glories of the Lord. That person is free to move not only on this earth, but in any part of this universe as well as in any part of the other universes, and then ultimately moving on to the spiritual sky. So we can just imagine the extent and the unlimitedness of full freedom in Krishna consciousness, which becomes as good as the Supreme Lord, who's free to do whatever he wants to do, with whomever, wherever, and however he wants to. So therefore, a devotee has complete freedom to move freely. So therefore, it is very important that also we can see that this association of devotees who bestow causeless mercy also is free. Also is free. And when that comes without you needing it or without you deserving it, that is called good fortune. And therefore, we have to make people fortunate in this world, irrespective of our level of Krishna consciousness or realization or advancement. Therefore, in all spheres of devotional service, freedom, to be free, freedom is the main pivot. Without freedom, you cannot execute devotional service. So that freedom, by a natural surrender to the Lord and to the devotees, means to become dependent on the process of devotional service. Then one becomes free and independent in one's movement. So that it requires to be surrendered to Krishna, the spiritual masters, to achieve complete freedom of life. Okay, now do you have any comments or questions? It's a little bit philosophical, but that's how it is for now. Then I'm going to speak about Srila Prabhupada a little bit. But if you have any questions for now.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So far, no one is asking any questions. Okay, there is one person, Shanti Mataji from Canada.
Hare Krishna, please come onto the screen.
Can you hear
Hare
me?
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama,
Can you hear me?
Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I can hear you, but I cannot see you. So can you undo your video thing and you can come onto the screen so I can see you, then you can ask the question. You are there? Shanti, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, good. Now go ahead with your question. Go ahead with your question.
Can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay, it's a two-part question, and it was in regards to the lecture from yesterday, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Okay, so forgive my comprehension. So the two parts is, it was regards to Kshatriya Dharma and the story about Arjuna. Where could I find that text so I could read in depth about the story you were talking to us about?
That's within the Mahabharata.
Okay.
So if you get the book Mahabharata, and you can look it up there.
Okay.
Mahabharata explains the scenes on the battlefield of Kurukshetra too.
So it's a full book?
Yes, it's a book called the Mahabharata.
Okay.
So different devotees have translated that, and you can read it. You can contact the local devotees and see if they can give you a copy. There's one nice devotee who translated named Krishna Dharma Prabhu from the UK. He has a nice translation, and there's also other translation by ISKCON devotees. It's within the battlefield of Kurukshetra. What's your next question?
So it's in regards to that story. When you were explaining, it was under the context of remembering Krishna. So I didn't quite understand for that story specifically, because when he kills that person.
Jayadratha.
Yeah.
Jayadratha. Yes.
And so I was just.
Okay, fine. So get me back onto the screen. Yes. You see, yesterday's examples I gave also that when one goes and buys flowers, And also Arjuna is fighting for Krishna as a Kshatriya. Srila Prabhupada said, and you can find it elsewhere also, Srila Prabhupada said that I'm paraphrasing, that Krishna spoke the entire Bhagavad Gita just to make Arjuna angry to fight. See, as a Kshatriya, you will not fight if you are not angry. See? So in this example I gave yesterday, the Krishna incited Arjuna's anger. See, Arjuna was pacified. Arjuna was passive. He was not inclined to kill Jayadratha, who was unarmed on the ground, out of his chariot. But Krishna incited his anger. And he said, you know how they killed mercilessly, Abhimanyu? And immediately when Arjuna was remembering Abhimanyu, he immediately got into action. So he wasn't remembering Krishna. But that is service to Krishna. So our process is called the process of devotional service. That means to be engaged in different activities of devotional service. So we do not remember Krishna as much as we will remember engaging in devotional service to please Krishna. See? So therefore, a question rather can be asked. So when you go to Goloka Vrindavan and you meet Krishna, see? And then Krishna may ask you this question. Because you are Krishna conscious, you are in the presence of Krishna. But Krishna is going to ask you this question. Why have you come to me now? What will you answer? And Krishna, I may ask this question. So if you do not know why have you come, then why have you come here? See? If you do not know how to answer that question. So therefore, Krishna consciousness means always remembering Krishna and never forgetting Krishna means to engage in devotional service. So Krishna may tell you when you meet him in Goloka Vrindavan, why have you come? He may ask. And you may say, I came to engage in devotional service. See? So then Krishna may say, now you go to the banks of the river Yamuna and you pick up some firewood for me that's dry on the upper bank. And you bring it to Mother Yasoda. See? But you may say, but Krishna, I want to be with you. I want to be with you. No, pure devotional service means that you serve Krishna as Krishna desires. You please Krishna as Krishna wants to be pleased. See? So therefore, always remembering Krishna, never forgetting means that when Krishna tells you to go for some dry wood and bring it to Mother Yasoda, you're going to remember only one thing. Dry wood, dry wood, dry wood. Where can I get it? Because as soon as you pick up some dry wood, you feel some ecstasy because you're fulfilling Krishna's desire. And then he said, okay, now in my consciousness, automatically you'll take the dry wood to Mother Yasoda. And you say, Yasoda Mata, I have brought the dry wood. You're not thinking of Krishna. You are thinking of the dry wood and you are remembering Mother Yasoda, which is non-different from service to Krishna and non-different from being Krishna conscious. So in the same way, Arjuna's killing of Jayadratha was incited by Krishna to not remember Krishna, but to do his service. In upholding upholding dharma by doing away with adharma or irreligiosity. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. So we should know the practical understanding what it means to always remember Krishna and never forget. That's what I just wanted to clarify from your question from yesterday's class. Is that all right?
Perfect. Thank you, Maharaj.
You're welcome. Other questions, anyone?
So far, no one, Maharaj. Okay, there is a two person just came up. One
Okay.
is okay.
If I want to come on the screen, please.
Okay.
Who is that?
Karunesha Madhava Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Karamesh, Madhava, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
How are you?
Yeah, fine Maharaj, fine Maharaj.
Okay, nice to see you again.
Yeah. So my question, Maharaj, the verse Anya Bilasta Sunyam, pure devotional service free from ulterior motive. With the current pandemic of COVID-19, what if a devotee organize a special prayers or doing a kirtan for the speedy recovery of the situation? That is my question.
Oh, that will be wonderful. So you are blessed by COVID-19 to do more kirtan. So this indicates that Srila Prabhupada said that the material world, and given this material body, which is part of the material world, is designed for suffering. And suffering includes old age and disease. So this is another one of those diseases that's coming around, and it will go whenever it wants to go. But it is giving us an impetus to be more Krishna conscious, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. So it's Krishna's arrangement. Not that Krishna want people to suffer and to die unnecessarily, but it is also a lot of things that's happening on the planet. You know, yesterday one devotee sent me a message. He says that, normally the animals are afraid of human beings, like innocent animals like rabbits and buck and deer, and so forth. He says because the human beings may attack them and may even kill them, to eat meat. But he said these animals in some parts of the world, they're coming out of the nearby greenery and forests and mountains, and they are roaming freely. They're going around freely. It's just such a wonderful sight. I'll give you another example. Another devotee sent me a sort of a link. I didn't really go to it, but he explained what that link is. He said in one city, which is not a major city as Beijing or Shanghai, in another city somewhere in China, I forget where and what the name of the city is now. Okay. He said that the children, because they have like uplifted the lockdown in that particular city, the children are coming out and they're looking at the sky and they can't believe what they are seeing because they never saw that before. And can you guess what that is? Anyone? The beautiful stars in the sky. I see it every day here in Mauritius in the evenings, in the night. But these children are asking the parents, what is that? Is there some people high up there holding some torch or something? Or some light that they're making? These little children, they haven't seen stars in the sky their whole life. Because in that one particular city, what's happening? It is an industrial zone. And therefore there's a thin layer of smog that pollutes the entire city. The sun barely shines through that smog sometimes. And in the night you can't see anything, no stars. Can you imagine that this COVID-19 virus has cleared the smog or that pollution that blocks the stars from the sky? I mean, that's a really nice thing. That Bhumi is being relieved and giving us, bringing forth a natural splendor and beauty, Mother Earth. That's good in that sense. But at the same time, if you want to increase your devotional activities, especially prayers and chanting, so that devotees can continue the devotional service and also to preach to others to come to devotional service, that is also fine. But we should also understand what is higher arrangements. Higher arrangement is there by Krishna. But it's not that Krishna created that to make people suffer. It is created by people to make others suffer so that one gets an understanding and realization that this material world is the suffering. And it will come and come in various ways and forms. This virus is only one little way. There's other ways also that they're destined to come within the advancement of this Kali Yuga. And I'll give you one, which I just read from Prabhupada. See? You know, we are fearful of something we can't even see. Some virus. Prabhupada said, I mean, it's really heavy. Prabhupada said, as the Kali Yuga advances, and Prabhupada said, it's already beginning now, but it's done unseen, and it's not reported. Prabhupada said, there'll come a time, which is kind of happening to some extent now, that people will have no food to eat that's coming from the agricultural fields. They'll have no food to eat because there'll be severe heat, drought, or there'll be torrential rain. You can't grow anything. See? And what will people do? They will have unrestricted illicit sex life, and they'll wait for the mother to develop the fetus or the child in the womb. And what will they do? They will abort that child and cook and eat. Very heavy. Very heavy. And it's given there to some extent in the 11th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Prabhupada says this in some places. And we know, and I don't want to mention where because I heard of it, in some places they actually do that nowadays. Now, you know, Ravana is a demon and Kamsa is a demon, but they never did such things. They will dare not do such things because they had some sense of kind of demoniac culture. This is worse than demons. Worse than demons. So therefore, we should be cautious and careful that do not live to the end of Kali Yuga. Whatever we can do now in this golden age, within this 10,000 years Kali Yuga, don't even wait for 10,000 years. Just finish your life in this lifetime and get out. Get out. As well as, if you don't want to get out and come back and preach, that's fine. But eventually Krishna will take you back. Krishna will take you back because of your compassion of coming back to preach Krishna consciousness. So therefore, prayer for even the non-devotees and so forth. You know, I'll give you one example of how Krishna consciousness is being appreciated even more now by non-devotees than ever before. You know, in India, our ISKCON temples combinedly have thus far, since sometime in April now, in the last few weeks, have distributed well over 10 million, freshly cooked containers of prasadam to distribute. And ISKCON temples are coming on the news headlines in all languages, on television, as well as in the newspapers, on the front page of the newspapers of their work right now, of their giving food, even to officials and government workers who are coming out of the field to help them. See? Now that never happened on television before, that now ISKCON is coming forward to give everything that they have to the people. Because we have this faith. Whatever little we have, if we give, Krishna will supply more to us to give more. We have that faith. See? So therefore, your prayers are also, well taken. Well taken. Karunesha Madhava, it's well taken. So at the same time, we should understand what's happening behind this. What's the greater plan behind this? See? I'll give you another example. I have a report that we have this Krishna Valley in Hungary. It's a project that is by the hard work and labor, and also divine inspiration of His Holiness Shivaram Swami. They have grains stocked up to last them for months and months, probably even over a year or more. They have grain, they have no problem. And within a year or so, they'll have more grains coming up from their fields. Food. So what happened was the city temple in Budapest, this is in the countryside somewhere. I haven't been there. I don't know the locations, in that sense. So the city temple Budapest is that they don't have their own gardens and, flowers and fruits and vegetables and grains. They have to get it from the farm. But now you can't travel because of the lockdown. See? So they sent some brahmacharis from the Budapest temple to the Krishna Valley farm, and about an acre or so, they have hundreds of acres, 4 brahmacharis or so, or maybe more, they are starting to grow for the Budapest temple. See? And whatever little land, even the ISKCON temples have around them, even in the city, they're starting to grow things. So it's back to Bhumi. It's back onto the lap of Mother Earth or Mother Nature. And she will supply and bring forth everything for us. And that's what's necessary in this world. And that's basically, Prabhupada said, coming gradually to simple living and high thinking. Okay, Karunesh, Madhava Prabhu, what's your next question? Come to the screen.
Only one question, yeah. Thank you, Maharaj.
Oh, there was another person. Maybe there was another devotee who wants to ask a question. Who is that?
Yes,
Krishna
Maharaj.
Prema?
Madhava Priya Mataji.
Madhava Priya, come on to the
Hare
screen.
Krishna Maharaj.
Can't see you. Okay, now I can see you. Okay.
Hare
Madhava
Krishna
Priya,
Maharaj.
tell me.
Maharaj, you just say that we can't force Krishna to come.
Ah,
Then how, when Advaita Acharya pray, then Lord Chaitanya come, and then we get Prahlad Maharaj was suffering, and then Nashingadev came, and then when Bhumi Earth Mother was suffering, and they all go to Lord Brahma, then they go to Lord Vishnu to pray, so Krishna can come. And
yeah.
is it not like they have been they pray to ask Krishna to come? In other words, like been forcing Krishna to take avatar.
Yes, in practically all the, get me on the screen, in practically all these instances, all these instances of these great devotees that have prayed for Krishna's descent, their prayer was to Krishna to descend based on this verse, Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanir Bhavati Bharata Abhyutanama Dharmasya Tadatmanam Sajamyaham, that to come and annihilate, our dharma, irreligion, and to restore dharma, spirituality or religiosity. In every case, that is the situation. Because Krishna gives that instruction or gives that verse in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has to fulfill his own words. And if Krishna does not, then we'll still be suffering in this world. In every case, they did not pray for any selfish or personal gain. So therefore, anya abhilasata sunyam jnana karma adi anavrita. They did not pray to get something back in return, fruit of nature, jnana, karma. And jnana means they did not pray that I want to become you. I want to become one with God and other things. So all of these devotees pray is for the welfare of every living entity. See? And that is called, which I discussed in previous days, that the devotee is, the ocean of auspiciousness, Subhadha. He brings auspiciousness to the world. So therefore I mentioned earlier that the mercy of Krishna follows the mercy of the devotee. That's how it works. Is that okay, Madhava Priya?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Are there any other questions pending before I go along to the next part?
One more person, Maharaj. Vidu Chaitanya
Okay, please
Prabhu.
come up to the screen. Who's that asking a question? I didn't.
Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu.
Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu, please come onto the screen.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, we accept my obeisance.
Hare Krishna, Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu ki jai. Tell me.
Yes, Maharaj. Among the different stages in devotional service, the Anartha Nirviti stage is very difficult and even can last for some lifetimes. So how can one surpass this stage easily and come to Nishta?
Do not worry about it. That's the first thing. You know, Krishna consciousness is blissful and always positive. So if one digs and digs and digs into the heart and into the mind and say, oh, now I have this desire, I have that desire, you know, you'll feel very depressed and probably get stressed. And also you may feel, oh, this Krishna consciousness not working for me. That's not true. So don't worry about the anatta nivriti stage. You simply associate with devotees who you're free, who you feel who are free from this anatta nivriti stage. By the mercy and by the instructions and by the association of advanced devotees, you don't have to even worry about this anatta nivriti. You just do the positive thing. Otherwise, you know, one will say, you know, Maharaj, you know, I'm so fallen. I have so much dirt in my heart. You don't know. Of course, you know, to feel like this is positive, but to express it is depressing. You understand? So if you feel like that, do the positive thing. Do the positive thing. By your own efforts, one may not be able to remove these anattas in the heart. But by the mercy of Krishna, which follows the mercy of the devotees, engage in devotional service of the devotees, inquire for them, serve them in whatever way possible you can. And those anattas will fly. Because anattas can never stand and never exist in your consciousness in the association of advanced devotees. It will not be there. And once you leave the association, the anattas will be felt less and less and less, and then almost to nil. Okay? Is that okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
That's the process. That's the process. Anyone else?
No one else, Maharaj. We can proceed.
Now, we all have experience. I'll discuss the different levels of devotees tomorrow. The beginning devotee, Kanishta, Madhyam intermediate, and Uttama, and the topmost devotee tomorrow. But I want to discuss something today that's not as important as the 3 levels of devotees, but this is more important. Now, when we go out to preach, one does not really know who's going to be receptive or not, right? But that's why we approach anyone and everyone indiscriminately. However, when one is on the street distributing books, and if you don't have that experience, go out and distribute books when the lockdown is, when the lockdown is over. You'll have this experience. Although you are not discriminating of who to approach and who not to approach, because you do not know who's receptive and who's not receptive, but in your consciousness, you will have to slightly discriminate, okay, amongst these 3 persons, which one? Then you go to one and the other 2 will already be gone. See? So therefore, Lord Chaitanya's instruction and process is that we distribute mercy, in a causeless way, irrespective of who is qualified and who is not qualified, without considering who is fit to receive the mercy and who is not fit to receive. That is our process. Now, that personification of Lord Chaitanya's mercy is our dear Srila Prabhupada. Now, Srila Prabhupada, when we come to tomorrow's discussion, it's a little different from today. Srila Prabhupada is beyond being an Uttama Adhikari or Mahabhagavat. He is a Shakta Avesh avatar. And a Shakta Avesh avatar means that the forms of that personality is like, has a divine absorption with the consciousness of the Supreme Lord called Bhagavata Vesh. And examples can be given of that, like Lord Kapila Dev and Rishabh Dev, in that sense. In other words, they are categorized into being Shakta Avesh because they have a divine absorption in the Supreme. They are empowered as such. See? So therefore, another example was a Shakta Avesh avatar is Narada Muni. He is empowered to distribute devotional service. And that is empowered with Bhakti Shakti, which is similar for Srila Prabhupada. See? Another example is the Chaturshana, or the four Kumaras. They are also Shakta Avesh. And they are especially empowered to distribute transcendental knowledge, which is called Jnana Shakti. So we have Bhagavata Vesh, divine absorption. We have Jnana Shakti, which means distributing knowledge, transcendental knowledge. And we have Bhakti Shakti, means distributing and engaging people in devotional service, in the form of Kapila Dev, Rishabh Dev, for Bhagavata Vesh, and the four Kumaras for Jnana Shakti, and Narada Muni for Bhakti Shakti. See? And then you get another type of empowered personality who's a Shakta Vesh. He's called Prithu Maharaj. And he was especially empowered to rule and maintain all living entities. And that is called Palana Shakti. Palana Shakti. So I give you different examples of different personalities, and in the same way you can relate to Srila Prabhupada. See? Now, a Vishnu Tattva indicates the Supreme Lord, and a Jiva Tattva indicates a part and parcel of Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada is a part and parcel of Krishna, just as Prithu Maharaj is in the Jiva Tattva as a Shakta Vesh, and just as Narada Muni and the four Kumaras are all Jiva Tattva. So therefore, a living entity who is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be especially empowered, and that is called Shakta Vesh Avatar. And that's Prabhupada's position. This is not a regular Acharya, even within the discipline succession. This is not a regular Mahabhagavat or Uttama Adhikari. This is someone who's especially empowered before he even came to this material world by Krishna himself. Now, there is one of Prabhupada's early disciples and one of the leading disciples at that time during Prabhupada's time. Prabhupada named him Rameshwar Swami. He's still with us as Rameshwar Prabhu. And he remembers that how Srila Prabhupada, the main thing he remembers about Srila Prabhupada is his like love and ocean of compassion. And if one of his other god brothers or god sisters did some service for Srila Prabhupada, and then they left that service, Prabhupada would sometimes talk to Rameshwar Prabhu, or even write Rameshwar Prabhu a letter that, I want you to go and get that devotee back. Do not let him leave. I love him so much. And then Prabhupada would tear. And then Prabhupada will add, why? Because he's also my son. So Srila Prabhupada, he loved every soul. And that's the most amazing characteristic of Srila Prabhupada. And it's not just his disciples that he loved. He loved them not just as disciples, he loved them as children. As children. And Srila Prabhupada was a loving father. So therefore, at every moment, Srila Prabhupada used to think of how to use everything in Krishna's service to attract people to Krishna, to bring people to Krishna. It's coming directly from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. So therefore, Prabhupada is on the absolute platform as Shaktavish avatar in the mode and compassion of Lord Nityananda in every respect. So we'll give an example of this. Yeah. When the devotees were with Srila Prabhupada in the early days, in the early 70s, they were staying at one of the first life members and wealthy industrialists in Mumbai called Kartikeya Mahadev's home in Mumbai. So when Prabhupada was there, he received a phone call from the temple president in Calcutta, who informed Srila Prabhupada that one of his oldest disciples had fallen into difficulty and was smoking ganja, marijuana. So on the phone, Srila Prabhupada told the temple president to tell that older disciple of his that if he didn't stop smoking ganja, Prabhupada would reject him. Heavy. So when Srila Prabhupada got off the phone and Tamal Krishna Swami heard the conversation on the phone, His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami asked Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, is it true that you will reject him if he doesn't stop smoking ganja? And Srila Prabhupada humbly replied, no, I cannot reject anyone. Then Tamal Krishna Goswami questioned Srila Prabhupada, but Srila Prabhupada, don't you have to draw the line somewhere? Is there not some limit? And Srila Prabhupada said, no. The mercy of Lord Nityananda is unlimited. From this we can easily gather that the fathomless depth of Srila Prabhupada's compassion is the form of actually being empowered by Lord Nityananda himself as a Shaktavesh avatar. Now previously, according to the Vedas, only the Brahmins were allowed to study the Vedas. But we go on book distribution. We don't look for somebody, are you a Brahmana? You want this book? We don't do that. We distribute books to anyone. Because in the Kali Yuga, nobody is really a Brahmana. It's Kalo Sudra Sambhava. Everyone is born in darkness. Everyone is born in ignorance. Okay? But by association of devotees, one can come to gain the qualities of a Brahmana. And therefore, devotees, they don't discriminate when they distribute books. So therefore, one gives everyone a chance. And that is giving them the good fortune. So one disciple once told to Srila Prabhupada, that Srila Prabhupada, there's a nice verse that you have translated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Brahmande Brahmite Konya Bhagavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasad Paya Bhakti Lata Beach. And he said that by this verse, it means that only one was very fortunate, Bhagyavan, very fortunate, gets the seed of bhakti or devotional service by the mercy of the spiritual master in Krishna. So then the disciples asked Srila Prabhupada, we were not very fortunate. Actually, we were very unfortunate. So how come we came to devotional service? How come we came to bhakti? How is that? And Srila Prabhupada, you know what we were doing before. We were not really interested in this stuff of devotional service. And then Srila Prabhupada said, very simple. He said, I have created your good fortune. Yadrichaya. I have created you good fortune. So that's the actual process that we came into, that the good fortune is created, by the devotees. And if one hears from a devotee, appreciates the devotee, offers service to the devotee, then you actually create more good fortune for yourself, and you create good fortune for others to come into contact with the devotees, because you feel this is a nice thing, and you're going to tell others also, this is a nice thing, this Krishna consciousness. Very, very, very important. In the early days, okay, I'll reserve that last one in the early days about Srila Prabhupada in relation to, they didn't even know who's Krishna, they only knew Srila Prabhupada. So I'll reserve that for the conclusion of this class today. Let's see if there's any more questions, and then we can take, and then I'll conclude with one more final anecdote of Prabhupada. Anyone?
So far, no one asking any question, Maharaj.
Any questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, come on the, oh, at last, Amrita Saki, long time.
Yes, Maharaj.
Come onto the screen.
Can you see me, Maharaj? Too dark.
No light in the room. I can see Mohan too. Where's the light? You in the dark.
Went on. No, this side there is no light, Maharaj. It didn't on the light.
All right, that's
Now-
better. Nice.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Maharaj. So is Mohan
Maharaj.
Murida? Wait, is
Yes,
Mohan
Maharaj.
Murida the question, or you having the question?
I have a question, Maharaj.
Okay, sit a little back. You can be blocking it. Yeah, that's better. Now tell me.
Maharaj, I always don't understand this, that Yasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam, Prabhupada often quotes this, that once you please Krishna, then everyone is pleased. So this everyone, does that mean devotees, non-devotees, or everyone? And also, I also had this question that if a devotee is not, or someone is not pleased with me, does that mean that Krishna is not pleased?
Nice.
Because if Krishna is pleased, everyone should be satisfied. So how do we
Nice.
understand that, Maharaj?
Okay. Okay. Now, His Holiness Bhakti Swami had the same difficulty when he was the temple president in Juhu, in Mumbai, which happened to have been our biggest temple in terms of the number of devotees. So at any one given time, perhaps there must have been like 100 to 200 devotees on that project from different parts of the world. And it was one of Srila Prabhupada's favorite projects, where he spent at one time 3 months consecutively, not leaving that project. So I'll give 2 anecdotes in that case. Bhakti Swami, he has a nature that he likes to please everyone. It's like that with him. So if I paraphrase or I remember it correctly, he was having this difficulty of pleasing everyone. So Prabhupada noticed, and Prabhupada asked him, what's the situation? He said, no, I try to please everyone, but some people are just not pleased. What do I have to do? Then Srila Prabhupada replied, you are not Krishna and I am not Krishna. Krishna is in the heart of every living entity, so he can please everyone and everyone can please Krishna. See? So therefore, if you displease Krishna and you please the disciplic succession, and even if everyone else is not pleased, but if Krishna is pleased and the disciplic succession is pleased, then that's all right. In that way. See? So that's one thing. Then another time, Srila Prabhupada saw His Holiness Giriraj Swami, doing various services, like picking up emptying the dustbin, this, that, all these menial services. He was doing it himself. So Srila Prabhupada sent one devotee to call him. And then when he came and he said, "What are you doing?" "No, I'm doing this. I'm so busy doing that, doing that." He said, "Oh, you're doing everything?" He said, "Yes." Like that. Then he said, "Can't you get somebody else to do it?" "Well, Srila Prabhupada, it's difficult to get devotees to do service," or whatever he may have said. I've forgotten, but to that extent. Srila Prabhupada said this. It is better to control 4 asses than work like an ass yourself. Now, the word in the Western world, that is the word, but in India, there is a donkey. In other words, our duty is also to engage others to please Krishna. Should encourage others to please Krishna. But if you want to go on pleasing everyone by trying to serve everyone, then that's not going to be possible. But if you engage others in serving Krishna, then that's part of pleasing Krishna. And engaging others means, and I said in earlier talks, that we should accept also service as a service in that sense. See? Now, I'm not really sure whether I answered your question with these 2 anecdotes. Is there any further clarification you want? Tell me now.
The examples are nice, Maharaj, but how do I Sorry, Maharaj. But when we let's say I have to explain this to someone. If someone asks me that what does it really mean that when Krishna is pleased, everyone is pleased. So how I'm not still sure how do I explain that, Maharaj.
Oh, now your question is more clear, and we have answered that in a previous class, and you may have forgotten. When you want to water the tree, do you water the trees, the leaves, and the branches, or what you water? The root, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
And then the whole part of the tree is nourished just through the roots. Prabhupada amusedly said, and the tree drinks through its legs. The roots. We drink through our mouth. Different living entities do different ways. So the same example, and Srila Prabhupada said, if you want to give nourishment to the whole body, you have to feed the
Stomach.
So these 2 examples have been given right here in Nectar of Devotion. So that's what it means. That's actually what it means. However, I want to give you another example of how to please Krishna, and then everyone else is pleased. The Prabhupada gives a fantastic example. He says, you get either a binoculars or a telescope.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes. Now we know that if you want to see something that's very far, and if you have 2 lenses in the telescope or binoculars in between you and the object will come that much near. And if you have 3 lenses, that object will come even more near. And if you have 5 lenses, that far object will come even more near. It's as if almost it's next to you. See? So the strength of more lenses in the binoculars or the telescope will bring that which is very far near. So the more one has devotees between you and Krishna, which includes the disciplic succession, the more near Krishna will be to you, because the devotees' lenses, will bring you closer to Krishna. But that's also ultimately pleasing Krishna and pleasing the devotees. You with me so far?
Yes, Maharaj.
And not only that, when you please one devotee who's a servant of one and another one and another one, another one, you get the credit of his potency of bhakti in your consciousness. It will enter you without that person losing it. So imagine the collective potency of all the devotional service and all the devotees that you are serving between you and Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar, which includes the discipline succession. So that means how near, how powerful those lenses are, how near would that Bhakti Shakti will come to you. So I thought I'll answer your question also in that way.
Very nice, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, we will conclude for today and we'll save that last anecdote for tomorrow. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Nanta Koti Vaishnav Vranda ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Nectar of devotion ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Go
Hare Krishna
Premanande.
Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.